Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining our session with NOAA Fisheries and also with the U.S. Agency for International Development. We have an opportunity today with these agencies to really dig into how data insights, AI, and even collaboration are accelerating their mission impact. I'm Chris Niehaus. I'm with Google Federal Civilian Team. I'm going to be your moderator. I'm going to try to get out of the way most of the time because I know what you're here for is actually hear from these gentlemen, which will be great. And so I'm going to jump first and foremost into those introductions. First on the end is going to be Jason Gray. He is the CIO for USAID. And then next to him is Elton Edinborough. He is a IT project manager with the Office of the CIO for NOAA Fisheries. And so what we're going to do, I'll jump through on the slides. This is us. And so for today's introduction, what we're going to do from an agenda standpoint is we're going to do each of the gentlemen are going to talk through and do a bit of an overview of their agencies, of their mission, how they're driving mission impact, and the stories that they have, and really how they're looking towards the future. And then after that, we're going to settle into some of the Q&A so we can get some of the insights of those lessons learned and how they're moving forward and thinking about things like AI through their adoption and then what they're looking for going forward as well. And so with that, I want to jump in and turn it over first to Elton. He's going to orient us, like I mentioned, to the agency. And with that, I'll turn it over to Elton, and you can take us through.
Hey, everyone. Happy to be here. Very honored and privileged to share the stage with USAID and Jason to speak through a couple of our capabilities and really just highlight the mission-driven agency that I work for, NOAA Fisheries. I've been at NOAA Fisheries for about 5 years, and it's been a great journey so far. I just want to share a little bit about that with y'all. So I'm going to talk a little bit about NOAA and NOAA Fisheries, our mission, and what we do. Pretty simple. This slide to me, the graphic presented is very meaningful to me. I think it's one graphic that captures everything in the picture. The ocean, the habitat that live in it, the weather above, the weather service. I'm sure everyone gets some weather alerts that they really rely on. NOAA's in charge of all of that, right? And the boat. Little tangent here. I took a trip out to Key West in 2020. I saw that boat live docked down there. And some of those things always, whenever I see this slide, it takes me back when I actually see some of those things. So NOAA, science, service, and stewardship, really boils down to understand and predict changes in climate, weather, oceans, and coast. And to share that knowledge with the public and conserve and manage the coastal and marine ecosystems. As you know, the NOAA mission, that's the fisheries mission, and it's really the way we want to support both missions, and I'm going to be brief here, is by digital transformation. We're responsible for the stewardship of the ocean's resources and its habitat, the sources of seafood, and recovery and conservation. And we really feel the best way to drive that mission is through digital transformation and efficiency and automation. So this is the fun part, for me at least. AI and machine learning, I get to share a little bit about our journey over the last 2 years with y'all. So when we started down this AI ML journey, we really focused on a couple areas in our agency's mission, and that was IAU fishing. We really felt the current technology could really benefit in that programmatic area. And so that's where we started to initially focus our resources and our strategic thinking on AI and ML. The first capability I'm really going to talk to you about is our global seafood data system, which we love our acronyms in government. If you don't know that, I haven't been able to change and probably won't, but it's called GSDS. And what it really does is it looks at all of our import trade from a seafood perspective and making sure it's above board, right? Where it's coming from, what's the species, its harvest, and making sure it's all compliant. Really, our old way was not really efficient, right? We get about 125,000 entries that we're looking at on an annual basis, and really doing that on a manual perspective, we weren't doing a good job. You can see some of the metrics there, right, on how we were doing it and how we're doing it now with this new capability. It's really helped with our automation of canned reports. So we want to say what, fish is coming from, red snappers coming from what country. We had to go look for that information. Now all that information is at our fingertips within seconds, and in some cases automated, right? Everyone gets that information readily, where we're not having to spend time to send out reports. The other thing it really does really well is, as you can see, is it's looking at every trip, and it assigns a risk score. So we have about 13 species and over 1,000 subspecies that the system is looking at. And it analyzes every entry coming in, and it assigns a risk score to it. And based on that risk score, our analysts at Seafood Inspection decide to dig deeper and to gain further insights on what the reasoning is. So it really frees up a lot of time for our NOAA staff, NOAA fisheries staff, to have information quicker and to drive policy change at a much more rapid pace than before, because we have time to do that. Just to give you a little perspective on how many entries we get a week. It's over 3,000 entries a week that our agents don't really have to start from ground zero on, right? So the system analyzes everything, and it really presents them with which ones to look at. It is built on GCP. It utilizes BigQuery, and Looker is our business intelligence tool. The next capability I really want to talk to you about, this is kind of our most recent one, is for our Office of Law Enforcement. Again, if you can see a common theme here is we're looking at AI ML capabilities that reduce time and gain efficiencies and get data quicker and faster to our end users, right? Our NOAA fisheries staff. And that's what this system is also, but this is more law enforcement geared. Anytime a boat for our agency goes out fishing, charter boats, they have to tell us what they're doing, when they're doing it, where they're doing it, why they're doing it, and when they're coming back. Kind of generic principles. Our staff have to go then through that and make sure that what they've declared is actually in truth what they're doing. A lot of manual work again, right? We get about 154 of those requests a week for one region. That's just the state of Florida and its surrounding areas. That's not even globally. So our Office of Law Enforcement staff are taking a look at that manually every week. What this solution does for us is it takes those 154 trips on average and dwindles them down to about 10 to 20 that are potentially bad behavior, right? For one reason, they didn't go where they were supposed to at the time they were supposed to, what they said. So it really lets our staff just focus on a weekly basis the problems they should be looking at, not the problems they shouldn't, right? Just a couple weeks ago, the staff that came to me were so excited to really be devoting their time to investigating rather than just working on operational work, repetitive work. This solution, also on GCP and Looker, utilizing BigQuery, has saved us immense amount of time to focus on getting predictive, right? Like, who's consistently doing the same things? How can we get predictive? And how can that drive policy change much quicker on why the IUU fishing is actually happening? So the path ahead. Everyone's like, what's next, right? That's kind of what everything happening here at Google next, no pun intended.
The new way.
The new way, right?
The new way. What's the new way?
What's the new way? These two solutions I highlighted about took us about 2 years to implement where we are. And did we learn a lot? Yes. Did we do some things we would change? Absolutely. But we're still trying to stick to our goals that got us to this point, right? That's kind of quicker, faster, accelerate information to decision making much faster. All three things we want to get faster. We really are honest with ourselves. We were 2 years ago when we started down this path. And we still want to be honest on where are the gaps in our agency, right? I love NOAA Fisheries, I love NOAA, great mission, gets me up every day, but it's accepting that we have some work to do in areas that have gaps, right? So across our board through our leadership level and all the way down, we are very transparent on where are the problems and what can technology do to solve those problems. We're not like, this agency has no problems, right? That's not us, and that was us 2 years ago. That's going to carry us forward. And for us, there's always new technologies, right? So we want to grow our current footprint in AI/ML. We're also looking on what's next, right? That's what we did back 2 years ago. Is we planted some seeds on some projects, not knowing how they would turn out, and we really want to do that going forward, right? With whatever you have, generative AI, all the new tools that have come about in the last 2 years. We want to get ahead of that and plant some seeds and see if they'll grow in a year. Hopefully not. Hopefully it won't take 2 years this time, but maybe shorter. But that's really our goal forward.
So Elton, before I turn it over to Jason, which I want to do here in a second, one of the questions I want to ask quickly is, you were in this audience a couple of years ago before you went down that journey, right? And you gave a little bit of an outline of sort of the challenges and some of the things you thought about. You accomplished a lot. We can use that term new way, but you guys truly developed a new way to identify illegal fishing, to start apprehending and catching poachers across multiple agencies. So I think it's one of the things that we've talked about that wasn't maybe as highlighted, is that this solution actually works across multiple agencies, from CBP to the Coast Guard and whatnot. And so if you were Elton today talking to Elton 2 years ago, what would be just a couple of those lessons learned that you would want to hear before going on that journey? And then I promise to give it to Jason.
That's a good question. I mean, I was in this audience about 2 years ago, trying to get any leg up I could on information. We at NOAA Fisheries had a rough idea on what we wanted to do, but had no way how we wanted to get there, right? We kind of knew a finish line. And sitting in that audience, listening to, back then, some of the trendsetters really helped me form a thing. And so one of the things that I would say to me back then was, you gotta have a strong team, right? And when I mean team, that's a collective team. On the federal side, and on the partner side, and on the Google side. I think, when we started being super transparent, we just jumped straight in, not knowing a lot. It was a pilot seed project. We didn't know what we were gonna do, where it was gonna go. As we started getting further along, we started learning the right way to do stuff. So I think the first thing is, this stuff is hard. I know we heard a lot of stuff and everyone, it's like magic, it's like pixie dust, right? But it doesn't work like that when you're trying to execute projects to deliver to the business and the programs to operationalize. And you're gonna make mistakes, as we did, but having a cohesive team that you feel comfortable with to make mistakes, I think that's the key, is be very thoughtful about who's in the room with some of this new age technology and how you implement it. That's kind of the first thing. I would say start early. I think there's time is wasted time. You don't get it back. And I think what we've learned is you learn by doing, right? I can show you a bunch of these slides. I'm sure you saw a lot of slides at Next. But when you start doing is the way you learn the quickest, most efficient way is to learn by doing. And that was my kind of advice to everyone here, is start tomorrow. Whatever ideas you get away from this session or any session, start implementing it tomorrow, going down that path so you can get to your finish line much quicker, because it will take you some time. And I think the last point I'd like to make is, one thing that you have to be very strong to, that you don't waver from, is your vision or your finish line. Very high level, 2-sentence statement. What do you want to achieve? Like, I think you saw what we wanted to achieve high level. I didn't get into the windy path that we got there, but our finish line never changes. We wanted to get more efficient at IAU fishing using AI/ML, right? Time-based solutions that increased efficiency, and that was our finish line. And from 2 years ago, that never changed. So when you start on your journey on these new capabilities, start there first, hammer that out, and don't sweat the details. The details will change, and just lean into the change, but stay true to your core on how to serve the mission of whatever organization you're doing and how technology can influence them.
Awesome, thank you. So Jason, I'll turn over to you because I know you have a global mission that is founded on a lot of collaboration, and so I'd love to hear your journey now. And thank you, Elton.
A bit of trivia, I grew up in Hawaii, so very familiar with NOAA, so it's nice to see all the work that's being done. Lots of fishing. So just briefly, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Agency for International Development. And then I'll walk through kind of our footprint, where we're at, and then I want to give a little history and context behind me to illustrate and demonstrate how Google is helping achieve the mission that we have. So I'm not going to read this, but in essence, we deliver international development. We do humanitarian assistance. We do global health. We provide food security, conflict prevention. There's a lot of amazing work that is done on behalf of the United States across the world. And in terms of just kind of the visual on where we're at, all over. We have, and I know this is from last year, but it's close to actually a little over $300 million from an IT budget standpoint. And as a federal agency, it's really important to make sure that I can explain what we're doing with that money, when we're doing it, where we're doing it, how we're doing it, why we're doing it. So in terms of missions, we're over 90. I was just about a week and a half ago in the Philippines because we have some missions in the Pacific Islands, Papua New Guinea, Fiji, Palau, Marshall Islands. And the reason I say that is because the connectivity, latency, the challenges there are pretty unique, but we still have to deliver IT services. So we have around 15,000 users that are leveraging our environment. We have implementing partners that help affect and complete the mission, achieve the mission for the agency. So in a nutshell, this is kind of where we're at. And then in terms of development running on IT, the reality is, I mean, as an IT servicing organization, we are delivering services that enable and empower others to deliver on their mission. Before I go into a little detail, I just want to share a little bit about my journey and kind of where we're at, and then use some really descriptive examples on how we're leveraging Google Workspace. So I've been in the federal government for a good number of years, started in DoD, Defense, and then transitioned to the VA to serve those who had served, then transitioned to the Department of Transportation, then Education, where I was the CIO there for over 6 years, and then about a year and a half ago transitioned to USAID. And again, the focus for me was always about continuous learning, continuous development, and impact. And what I didn't have was the global experience, which is what really excited me about USAID, because one, it's just an amazing mission, but knowing that we could use technology to improve the lives of millions of people around the world was something very attractive to me. So one of the first things that we started focusing on was our IT strategic plan, because I wanted to make sure that, and I promise I'm going somewhere with this so you understand how it all loops together, but part of our IT strategic plan was focusing on what are our key goals. And one was about being stakeholder-centric. And the way that we do that in a global organization is largely through technology. And this is where Google has allowed us to communicate 24/7, 365, seamlessly, and collaborate across the world on all of our different missions. So again, that was number one. Number two was really about operational readiness. In some of the areas, and certainly the last year and a half, there's been a handful of situations where there's been crises that happen, severe earthquakes or human-made disasters and coups and things where we have to evacuate people from areas under conflict. And Google has been there so that we have a safe, secure, encrypted method to communicate and stay connected with our teams who oftentimes are from the locations that these conflicts are happening or these disasters are happening. And Google's allowed and enabled us to do that seamlessly to make sure that we're operationally ready, whatever ends up happening in the world. Number 3 is pragmatic governance. And in government, as was said, we love to have our acronyms, but we also love to have the processes that, as I was alluding to earlier, explaining why did we make that decision, when did we make that decision, who made that decision, what was the impact of that decision. And that's where governance comes in. And I was sharing earlier, one of the things I've seen across the numerous agencies that I've been at is correspondence and how you're tracking and managing a bunch of different communications around thousands of people and different documents. And again, Google has enabled that to be seamless, where I don't have to worry about something getting lost in email somewhere, or where is that located on someone's drive or in someone's account. The seamless ability to be able to collaborate and clear documents and correspondence in a federal agency has been immensely helpful. The 4th area is really about the worldwide talent pool. Because we operate in so many different areas, the focus is really on making sure that we can communicate, that we can train individuals across the globe, that we can continue to scale and enhance our workforce. And Google has enabled us to be able to do that. I know I'll have a chart in a moment, but on average, we're doing over 500,000 Google Meets every month. Again, all hours of the day, making sure that when we're doing training, we're staggering it so that we're being mindful of individuals who are halfway across the world. And then the last area, which again is really about insight-driven outcomes, which again, having a platform like Google, where we have our data that we can pull on and ensure that the decisions that we're making are delivering the outcomes that we are looking for, and then continuously learning on that and improving to make sure that we're making better decisions with the data that we have. So those are just a few examples on how we've not only shaped where we're going and what we're doing from an IT strategy standpoint, but how Google is augmenting that and supporting that across the world. So as I talked about, seamless collaboration, it's been great. I know our data services team, we've trained over 2,000 individuals on data literacy. Part of the workforce development is making sure that the workforce is ready and prepared and trained for the future, so that we don't have a lag or a situation where individuals are feeling that they, that there's a gap in terms of capability. Information sharing, as I talked about. I will also say, I know we all lived through COVID in this room. It allowed and enabled a really seamless transition from an agency that regularly was in the office, and I think we saw this across the world, where everyone very quickly transitioned, and I know that Google helped enable that at USAID as well. Then here's kind of a footprint in terms of the types of capabilities that we use. As I mentioned, you can see that we're certainly well adapted to it. But anyway, so that's kind of where we're at with USAID and how we're leveraging Google to deliver services. Very excited about the future and where AI is taking us to help improve the efficiency and effectiveness and good government that I'm responsible for making sure we're delivering as it relates to IT.
So Jason, thanks. So one of the things that I heard that was a common thread for both of you, or I guess two things, was having a clear strategy that IT was supporting, right? Having that clear vision, laying out a clear strategy. Jason, for you in particular, you've built a foundation with Google Workspace that is supporting 90 mission areas across the world, 90 plus. You know, as we were talking before the show, there are a couple of areas in particular around like AI where you think about the diversity of that community that you see as great areas of interest or areas that you're particularly excited about.
Yeah, so from an AI perspective, I know we're still new in our journey. if you will, and I know that the technology is continuing to advance immensely, but I am looking at it from two real pathways. One is from an operational standpoint, meaning what are the commodity IT capabilities that we're delivering, and how can AI improve on the efficiency and effectiveness of that, and to Elton's point, save time. Because that's going to be really key, because then I can use those resources to do other activities. On the second line, if you will, is really on the programmatic side. When I look at those 4,000 implementing partners and the work that they're doing in the missions that we're serving, I'm really interested in how AI can be leveraged to improve outcomes there. And I was speaking the other day about the intersection between all the different data points that we have. And I know we have a massive public data set called the DEC. And what I'm really interested in is looking at different data elements across the entire agency to see if we're able to learn quicker and faster from the technologies that we have and the data that we have to improve outcomes. As an example, meaning if we are doing agriculture work in a mission, and if we are doing global health work in a mission, and we are looking at endemics and trying to figure out causation and correlation, and are we seeing positive outcomes as it relates to the work that's being done, which I know we're measuring, we're able to demonstrate that, but when we're able to leverage technology and AI in this case to look across the entire global landscape, we may be able to find data points that we wouldn't normally have looked for, or we maybe wouldn't have had the resources to look for it, or it's not so dependent on an individual thinking, hey, I wonder if this has to do with that. So those are a couple things like in the future that I'm looking at. I know just internally, we're also looking at, back to the operational piece, being able to do document summaries. I know in government, we love our policy, and things change, and we have executive orders that come out, and we have guidance that comes out from the Office of Management and Budget, and it's great to be able to use AI in a way to synthesize and provide summaries very, very quickly, which again, oftentimes is just double checking and validating what you already know, but that has been really helpful. Translation services as well. Right. When I'm looking across, more than 90 different countries that we're operating in, and being able to provide translation services in a way that if a report is done from an implementing partner in another language, yes, it's going to be translated, but if we could leverage AI to get access, even in a draft or notional summary of where things are at quicker and faster, it can help inform decisions and improve outcomes over time. That's great, thank you.
And so, Elton, I'm going to come back to you for a second, just back a little bit on the journey part. You focused again back, you had a clear vision, you looked at where innovation could have a positive benefit for the mission, positive benefit for the world, but then also you talked about needing to go fast, right? Drive that efficiency. So as you were scoping and building out and bringing cloud services to bear, what were some of the biggest benefits that you really saw from that, or maybe even what were some of the positive surprises that you saw?
Good question. For us, the using Google Cloud, I think some of the early benefits we saw was it helped us to scale and fail faster, right? So initially, when you're just talking about IT implementation, about hardware, and just to scale up to do any type of project, right? There's an investment in capital that's needed. With this new age of GCP and us leveraging that, it just helped us to not have everything in a row, and we could just scale or build much faster and then figure things out as they go, because the environment is very agile and nimble. The other thing is collaboration anywhere. I know fisheries is, we have 50 sites all over the US, and our workforce is about 4,000 people, and it's distributed, not as much as Jason's and USAID, but they're all over the country. And for us, the Google product and GCP and stuff helped us to implement those with people all over, right? We didn't have to be in the same office in the same location, or it just helped implement much quicker.
Great. And then I'm going to now shift to some of that intersection with moving fast with some of the constraints of stakeholders, right? So you both have different types and many stakeholders, whether they're operational, programmatic, policy. And I'll start with you, Jason. If you can talk about how you see continued adoption of newer technologies, and certainly AI is what we're talking about a lot, and with the executive order that's come down, I'd love to understand how you think about approaching that to get velocity plus responsibility for impact and stay mission aligned.
Yeah, so I think that's the balance that we all have to walk all the time, right? Because there's a lot of amazing technologies out there, and we have a lot of mandates and requirements, and we have to be mindful of that. Again, not to go back to, but my first focus is really about being stakeholder-centric. So the lens that I start from and that I ask my team to start from is how can we enable and how can we empower through technology? And it's looking at whatever is coming, meaning AI is certainly transformative in so many different ways, and there's risks associated with that. But the idea is, well, let's look at the value, let's look at the positivity, let's look at the potential impact here first, and then start looking in how do we make sure that we're securing this? How do we make sure that we're governing this the right way? But not letting our fear of the concern and the risks prevent ourselves from even asking those questions. So it's really a mindset more than anything, because it's not about just accepting the risk, because you don't have CIOs who stay very long as CIOs who just accept a bunch of risk. It's really about managing the risk and looking for opportunities where you can mitigate and manage that risk in a way that enables users and individuals to leverage the technologies that are there. So when it comes to AI, I want to embrace it. I want to do it responsibly. I want to make sure that it's done safely, because I know that as a federal agency, taxpayers are paying for everything that we do, and we want to make sure that we're protecting and securing the information to the best of our ability, while also enabling and empower the missions there. So it's really that balance and looking at how do we find our way to yes, safely, securely, responsibly, without thinking, oh no, we're not allowed to do this because of this. Because most of the time there are ways to do it safely and securely in a way that allows you to leverage the technology. So it's really a mindset.
Great. And then, Elton, same question for you. How are you guys balancing that velocity with responsibility and government the federal guidance and whatnot?
Yeah, I think a lot of what Jason said is absolutely true, right? We want to be stakeholder-centric on whoever you support, right? That's really what drives you. That doesn't mean a blank check, right? Anything we do has to be safe and secure. And the big thing is data for us right now. Like NOAA Fisheries just collects a lot of data. And so I think we have to just be sound on the data foundation first, and in a safe and secure way. And how do we move that forward when we're doing some of this new technology stuff? How do we merge all that together with AI and ML in a safe and secure way? The other thing is kind of the human decision loop, right? Like, I think I talked a little bit about our current capabilities. Now it's looking at how do we get the decision making also in that loop, right, of some of these new technologies, and seeing what it does for our programs and our end users. The same thing of getting more efficient with the time to getting to better outcomes, better decisions, all with the umbrella of being safe and secure.
Great. And so now I'll ask you to then keep looking forward a little bit, and if you can elaborate on what fisheries needs to do to be successful to meet the next future demands. Like, I assume this has been a successful project. You've gotten some momentum from this. So kind of what's next, and where is that data? Where is that success taking you next?
That's a good one. I think if I had that solved, be at a speaking tour somewhere else too. No, that was a joke. You know, for us, it's really trying to wrap around, and Jason talked a little bit of the data, right? We have a lot of different needs in NOAA and NOAA fisheries from a data consumption. And it's really trying to get the holistic organization kind of on the same page from a data structure, so that once you start having similar data structures, then you start to see the efficiencies across, right? So we're a big permitting, that's part of our big mission, right? We're all fishing, but they're all different data sets, right? They collect data differently. How do we marry that up as an agency? How do we get the businesses together and create some data synergy on efficiencies? Then we can go from unstructured data to structured data, and then we can use all these cool tools that you've been hearing about all this week, right? It really comes down to our data strategy and how we go with that going forward, then to sprinkle on some of the cool tools to gain efficiency.
And I think I want to just reiterate that one a little bit, because we had talked before, and having that foundation, you started with a vision, it was supported by technology or aligned to the technology, but then you also were focused on the data, and then really kind of layering a foundation and building up to it to the point where you could bring in AI in a responsible way and start to see some acceleration. But I think you'd use the word like pixie dust or magical thinking. Like it had to be a thoughtful plan that started from the data and worked up and had a clear vision. If I'm reiterating correctly, it wasn't just, hey, let's just go grab this fancy thing we just saw in a demo, snap it in, and it's a silver bullet, and bam, we're off to the races. Is that right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was a very pragmatic, layered approach, right? I think that's how we've come at it, and I think that's what we're going to do going forward, right? It's not, we've heard a lot of buzzwords here this week, and they're great technology and great solution sets, but we want to be very pragmatic and thoughtful on how they're looked at, implemented, and deployed.
Yeah, because the acceleration can be real, but you have to get that foundation in, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then I guess, Jason, similar for you, you gave us some insight into how you're thinking about some of the opportunities around AI, but you've now built a great foundation around workspace, but there's other projects as well. In general, where is, from your perspective, as you balance the needs of your constituents and all of your stakeholders with also sort of the programmatic and policy and operational needs, where are you excited about what's next for USAID?
Yeah, so I feel like business intelligence with the data that we have is going to be key. That's certainly one of the paths. And just as an example, like cybersecurity. I know we heard on Tuesday, New York talking about the massive amount of log data that they're capturing. And I know across the federal government, we have requirements for log data, and we get on average over 1 billion events and logs every month at the agency. And to me, being able to leverage AI to not just automate, but analyze, ideally will end up reducing the risks associated with the different types of activities that are going on in the environment, or in some cases, maybe proactively identify something that's going on. Having done this for a while, most of the time when something really bad happens, the after action usually reveals that you knew about it a long time before. And I'm really hoping to leverage technologies and AI specifically to prevent those things from happening before they happen, so that in retrospect we're not reviewing. So that's one. Operational efficiency as well. When I look at the global footprint that we have, I want to make sure that we are being as efficient with the resources that we have as possible. Again, language, translation, communication, collaboration across the globe, and being able to leverage translation services seamlessly is something I'm really, really excited about. And then on the programmatic side, as I was mentioning earlier, there's so much insight, and I've often said that the federal government has, I would say an ocean, but it's like a universe of data, and I would love for agencies to start being able to leverage technology that allows us to correlate across the federal government, across different agencies to figure out if there are things that we could or should be doing more efficiently and effectively as a government.
Well, I'm glad you've connected with Elton, part of this, because Elton, that's one of the key parts of your solution is that multi-agency connection to get those illegal fishing, right? Yeah, we have a lot of partners. Our Office of Law Enforcement works with the Coast Guard hand in hand when it comes to these things. And ever since I started at NOAA Fisheries, I believe it's one big federal agency, right? Our sister organizations, and I try to leverage, talk, and learn from that. And we do it on a daily operational basis at NOAA Fisheries as well. We lean on the Coast Guard and other agencies in doing our mission. Yeah, I think one of the things that's illustrated is so many boundaries can be broken down with good data, with good approaches to AI, to collaboration. You can break them down across agencies, you can break them down across borders for a great impact. So I think we've got time for one last question, and Jason, I'm gonna come back to you with the same question I first started with Elton on, which is, if you were younger self 2 years ago sitting in this audience looking for the wisdom of 2 years or a couple years later from you now, what would be some of those lessons learned from your journey?
So I'm glad that Elton answered that question first, because I would definitely align with everything that he said. I would certainly say I would focus on stakeholder engagement much quicker, adopting much quicker, so that it becomes second nature. I would also communicate as seamlessly as possible, kind of the vision on where we're going, so that it gave people the opportunity to prepare for it. Another thing, in hindsight, I feel in government, I want us to be able to enable innovation and creativity. And that oftentimes comes at giving people an opportunity to try things. And one of the things I want to do, and that we've been focused a lot on, and I wish I would have done this earlier, is really seeing what that global workforce is capable of delivering, and it not being so much centralized, as in, it has to come from us, you have to do it our way, this is the only way, because as an example, we have a mission we have these annual reporting requirements, and this mission is using AI to generate these reports with an extremely high percentage from a summary standpoint of accuracy, and it's done in a very short amount of time. And that was done at a mission. I want us to be able to leverage that. And that's the sort of thing where, again, there's a brilliant workforce out there that is just waiting with these creative, innovative ideas. And what I wish I would have done, and I would say at every agency I've been to, is really tapped into that and focused on how do I leverage those years, and sometimes their entire lives have been dedicated to providing for the agency, delivering IT services in very innovative and creative ways. And I don't want it to be that you have to do it our way. Yes, you have to make sure it's secure. Yes, we have to make sure we're governing it correctly. But I would hope to give people the freedom and the ability to try, and we can learn from them to improve the way that overall as an agency we're delivering services.
Well, you both have shared that you have great teams. Yes. And you've shared too from the lessons learned having a great team and empowering them. So I think that's a great one to end on. I thank you. I appreciate your partnership. Thank you for your partnership with Google. Thank you for coming here and being willing to share your lessons learned and just the insights into your mission. I think one of the greatest things from my perspective of getting the pleasure of working with federal agencies in particular is your mission is so powerful. What you're able to do and what you're able to demonstrate resonates, and it's great to have seen that and then to learn more from you. So those are all the questions we have. Thank you for your time, everybody, and thank you, Elton. Thank you, Jason.